Welcome to the Operation Game Night podcast. We're back and better than ever. It's just me today as your host, Travis, but I'm joined today by John Lazaration, who is the creator and the developer for a game called Draughtnauts. John, how you doing?
Great. It's great to be here. Thank you very much for having me on.
Yeah, so let's just jump right in. Draughtnauts, can you give us a brief description of this game?
Yeah. So Draughtnauts is a collectible, expandable tabletop game set in a sci-fi universe. It's based on checkers, so the gameplay is checker style. So it's really sort of very easy entry into a tabletop gaming world. But it's customizable, so it's based around these champion pieces, which have their own backstories. You can mix and match the champion pieces. They have interchangeable armor pieces to kind of really customize the whole checkers experience. Because really, what is checkers? It's been around for 5,000 years, and it's just one black piece, one red piece, or whatever, and it's just the simple movement. The mechanics are really kind of great, though. The strategy is still there. So what I've done is just sort of added a little bit of character flair to it. And just kind of made it just I'm someone that I love the tabletop gaming world, like Warhammer and all those like really complex stuff. That stuff is like it's so incredibly awesome to me, but it's just like it's the doing it and like getting into it and sort of like in order to get into that world, it just feels so daunting. So what I wanted to do, especially because I've my family kind of helps with my son, who when I first started this was much younger, but now is actually helping with aspects of the game. So I wanted to kind of bring this into something that was a little easier to understand, and kind of checkers, simple mechanics, but you add your character to it. You add, you can follow it with a broader story than what was just simple pieces.
So is the story explicit or is it implicit with you developing your characters kind of on your own? Like you can customize the little pawns that are out there that are moving around the board like checkers, and you're equipping armor and stuff. Does that have a impact on the game, or is it largely just like, I don't know, like something like Beyblades where like this blade looks cooler than your blade, right? Like how much story is there actually in this game? Or is it more like superficial, like just kind of making cool characters fight it out?
So it sort of starts out at like that, where it's an aesthetic. So it's like the game pieces, and I do everything myself. So this entire endeavor, or this is actually the shop's been open for now in a year. So really, the whole thing's been about a year, a little longer, in just getting out there and being public with it all. Yeah. And so it started off as being more of an aesthetic sort of thing. It was like, oh, this is a cool helmet, or this is a cool sword. And then and maybe I'll have to jump back into a little more of the backstory of this whole experience. But it really could be something where the one weapon has a different power-up ability, or the shield has a power-up ability. And the whole thing is expandable in that way, where as this grows and as a community of gamers and makers and followers build upon this, that they might add, oh, well, what if the sword does this gameplay mechanic, and what if this does that? And then there's sort of this community aspect of growing the actual game from what is a base checkers level. I mean, to be honest, you don't even have to play Draughtnauts. Almost everybody's probably got a checkers board, like checkers, chess, and all sort of the same thing. Use the Draughtnauts as just replacements for those pieces. And now you've just got something more customizable. But the game expands from there. So yeah, right now there's a Draughtnauts rules that are a little different than checkers, but it goes from there. So maybe if someone has an idea, or if we come up with ideas for anything else with the customizable pieces, that is just means the game is just has more room to grow. There's just more opportunity there.
So relying more on like fan inputs and fan builds as this game grows, like, people talk about Root on just about every board gaming podcast. It's like one of the perfect asymmetric war games out there. But so many of these factions that exist, at least on the internet, are fan developed and tested. And they go out there and it's like this homegrown thing. And then the team at Leader Games occasionally will adopt some of those changes, adopt some of those rules, and make it their own. Is that something that you're looking at doing? As the fans start to input more rules and more customization options into this game?
Sure. I think as the community grows, it's sort of one of those things where, it starts off with, I was called it like, the barons and the noctiers. This is like, it's kind of like, there's a voting class, and then there's like you just have general input and accessibility. So as this kind of grows, it was like, as people enter the community and want to voice their opinions on like, I always like to think of it as like this creative sandbox, not so much like a Minecraft but like where as people grow into it, or as the game grows and people come into it more, and they say like, oh, well, maybe this is a good idea, and we have like, the community votes on those kind of things. The whole thing started off as me 3D printing these. So as it is currently, these are 3D printed. I do all the designing in house, and I do everything from the great state of New Jersey. And it's just me and my home little studio here, with a couple printers, and that's how it all started. And I work with a print on demand partner for some of the bread and butter stuff that like kind of really get the game out there. But
Yeah.
the best part is that everything is sort of, in the confines of the country. I don't have to worry about sitting on the water or holding an inventory. So at the moment, everything is just sort of, you want a set of Draughtnauts, either the ones that I'm making sort of exclusively on per diem basis, or the actual 2-player set that you can get, that you get to customize. You choose the player 1's color, you choose player 2 color, and the game mat, and then you can start from there and build off from that. So it's really from that 3D printing market, I kind of building maker world. It's sort of like, well, there we go. So maybe that's another aspect of the growth, where now I would offer up the STL files as an option, something I'm pursuing. That now we have makers that are printing their own styles and adding that into the universe. And so it's more than just the game, because really the game is a beautiful way to bring people, as I've been saying, is bring people to the table. Like we're living in such a world now where tabletop gaming is it's such an awesome thing to have, as that, like, bringing people in to engage more. And so, leave the screens, and like, I as much as I love video games, having a moment to come down for my family and I to sit at a table and play a fun game is more than what I would like to see for this. So like, having it expand to people bringing their own ideas has been a huge focus from the beginning.
Yeah, and board gamings are a great conduit for that, right? Like, it brings people together. Let's go back for a moment to when you first came up with this idea. You said you wanted something simple like checkers. You wanted to like be able to play with your kid at the time. Talk about like your design efforts, at least getting started. How did you play test this? How did you work on the art style? Because this game is very art stylized. I kind of love the like 90s computer graphics type characters that you have going on, and the playmats themselves look like they are ripped out of Windows 95, and I love it. Talk to me about like kind of your design philosophy and where that all came from.
Yeah, thank you. So this really started. This goes back to 2015. So I'm a toy guy. I've always been into toys, and specifically like custom toys. Yeah. So there was a moment where I was like really big into like custom pops, and I was making that world. I was staying in that world. Okay. But I've always been sort of a maker. I have two fine arts degrees. I've been in the arts for like my whole life, in my career. So I've always wanted to make stuff more. Like, so when 3D printing kind of came around, this is 2015, where it's like, is not really around, but I built a wooden 3D printer of all things. Okay. And it barely worked. It really didn't work at all, but it made the first Draughtnaut, and it made it out of like 8 pieces, and it was like I had to put them all together, and I didn't know what I was doing at all. I had no clue, but it was making them, and all of a sudden the things started going, and I'm like, whoa, I'm making toys. And all of a sudden, one printer became, one kit printer became a nicer printer, became 6 printers, became, oh my God, I'm making a lot of these Draughtnauts. What am I doing with this? And so I'm like, well, maybe a game. Maybe it becomes a game. And so this is like 2018 when I really started getting the game moving. And I was printing, checkers is 12 versus 12. So I was making 12 pieces, each made of 8 little pieces. So I was kind of in my basement for the rest of my life. So I started playtesting that checkers idea, and it was a very grand idea. armor had their own mechanic, and it was vast and grand. And I kind of like jumped right into it. And I started working with a factory in China actually to even kind of like get budgets going, figuring this out. And the playtesting was solid. I had a really, really great response from it. And this is 2019, and at the very end of 2019, just everybody kind of knows what happens in 2020. And then, so it was like all of a sudden, it was just one thing after another that was just like, okay, I'm not a business guy. I had my own job, and it was sort of like, well, let's put this on the back burner. Yeah. So Draughtnauts kind of put that on the back burner. But lo and behold, 2025 rolled around last year. 3D printing is astonishingly easier to use now. The machines are so much easier to access. And so, again, one printer turned into two printers, turned into, oh my God, I'm making the game again. But it's so much more solid now. And it's like, it was easier to print. And now the ease of the getting it made is so much simpler that I was able to fully focus on just the artwork and then just the actual making sure this is something that is, makes sense. Because like, to be honest, who really just wants a best version of Checkers? It's, I was like, there's got to be some greater story to it. So over the past year, I've been trying to develop more of a mythos, of a grand epic sort of that tells the tale of the Draughtnauts, that then you can take that into the game and then be like, oh, this is that base, and they have that rivalry with this base, and it kind of like builds that upon an original story that has I come from a filmmaking background, so like and storytelling background, so a lot of my history and education in academia is in this, so it's like oh, I feel like it's a life's work kind of coming together and building this world and around a game, and then I can make the social media. So it's sort of like as much as it pains at times to be a solopreneur, just sort of doing all of this, it's it's fun to create. And this game has been an excellent motivator to that. And the simple design. So like I designed all of this stuff that you were asking. I designed all of it in SketchUp. So I'm not a 3D designer. I'm an editor. I'm a digital. I work in the digital realm, but not necessarily in designing 3D modeling. But I use SketchUp to create the models, and so you can see there's a lot of like architecturalness in them. They're very geometric, which is sort of like me playing into my abilities as within the software. Yeah. But it turns out that it's just like it works for Checkers, and then in this environment with 3D printing, it just sort of works. So the mats themselves, you say Windows 95, that's really funny because I think I designed them in Paint. Nice. So like I'm pretty sure I designed those, and this is again in the 2015, like 2016 when I was first doing all this stuff, and like I threw together a bunch of like tiles and Paint, and I think I actually even started off as like an Excel frame. Okay. And then that just to make them all the same size, and then I dumped that into Paint. I was just really kind of like whatever. And then but then the designs were actually what I was using for the boards back in 2019 when I was really pushing it. Yeah. So I was like, well, I got the designs. Let me put them on neoprene mats now, which is actually my goal forever. I love the neoprene mat design for a game mat, because it's like you can use that for it's not just, it's multi-purpose. You can just put it on your computer and there you go. Sure. But back when I was first designing, it was like $35 per to make them, and it was like so ridiculous. I'm like, I can't do it. But now it's much more feasible to get them, and they're print on demand again. So it's like I can run that with the 2-player set. So it really offers like a beautiful customization to this thing. It's just exploding in my head anyway. I'm hoping it spills out a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk production for a minute, since you mentioned it a couple times. You have been printing the pieces. You've been getting the neoprene mats. You've been doing all this stuff. You are selling these as kits, but you also sell the files to people if they have a 3D printer, right?
That I'm still evolving that. Okay. That is something that is planned, but like as I look at the platforms, because right now Draughtnauts is only sold on Etsy. So Etsy is my main marketplace. Primarily for the ease. I mean, again, I'm by myself, so the tax burden is like, something that's already preset. At least one of these things is preset. So everything is sold through Etsy, so you can find me there. which actually helps work with my print on demand partners, because everything is sort of just, you put the order in and there they go. So,
Okay.
I've been printing them. Um, I've been printing exclusive sets and then individual champion pieces that have more
Oh,
backstory. So I've been printing like as we go. I printed actually a number of one player sets, exclusive. I would call it studio exclusive sets. So those are like one player sets or expansion sets to expand your own set or mix and match pieces. So those ones I print in house, and those ones are more exclusive. They're different color combination filter filaments that are like more like crazier filaments that I'll find. So that's, I'm like, and then they're like maybe more multicolor. So the two player sets that you buy, that you customize those colors, those are sort of base colors that kind of get you into the game. But that's certainly not to stop anybody from painting them, because I love the idea of people customizing their own, again, from the Warhammer to custom end. Like when I was custom pops, I was like, oh, I love the idea of your kit bashing and giving these, offering up a gray set. So like you take this and you paint whatever color you want, which kind of correlates with the STL files and printing them your own multicolor. But the overall idea is to offer it to people for their own creative end. Like, how would you paint this? What would your base be? What colors would you find, for this? Because the beautiful thing is I don't have to worry about waiting for a prototype or anything to come. I just, a day later, the machine pops it out and it's like, well, there we are.
yeah.
I
I was looking at the style, and you could have easily designed these like super elaborate minis to go with this game, right? The wizards and the giant mechs, but you have such a simple design that I think it's a great onboarding tool for people that have never painted minis before. Like, give it a shot. What is the harm in just trying this mini? It's big enough. It's kind of like a chibi looking mech robot looking thing. Like, you can put some cool design on there, and those that are brand new to painting might get a kick out of it. Those that are expert painters might be able to make these look really freaking detailed and cool. So I think that there's like a wide span of enjoyment that you can get out of something like that for those that enjoy painting their minis.
Yeah, no, that's sort of a world I come from. Like I would rather offer someone more of a blank slate, and then I find the most creative people find the most creative things in the most basic.
Yeah.
So it's like, and the beautiful thing that happened with Draughtnauts organically is just generally from my own ignorance in modeling. Here's something very basic, but then also sort of, and I had somebody come up to me at ToyCon last year, and he was like, "There's something kind of universal about this. There's something that like there's you want to say cute, but for like warrior fighters, it's like I understand what you're saying, but like there's something about it that like." From what people are telling me is like, oh, there's something about them that it's organic, but it's also mechanical, and they're not driven. These aren't like mechs that are like have like people inside them moving around. They're sort of like their own and they're their own thing.
They are their own character.
They're on their own galaxy of things, but they have this sort of universality to them where you're like, oh, you can kind of fit any sort of archetype of storytelling archetype to it, and then the fact that the base model is rather simple, but the armor attachments, the weapons, those can go as crazy as you want, and certainly just because having simple shapes, it gives someone, at least you're right, someone who's never done anything like that before, have like faces to deal with instead of having like some bold shape where you're like, oh, I could do anything here. And there's some limits. I think is okay, especially when you're entering into something you've never done before.
Yeah, I think some of the first minis I ever had the courage to try and paint were like the Marvel United, like chibi looking characters, because they are kind of like puffy and big and like have larger surfaces that you can get enough detail where it looks cool on the table, and they're recognizable characters. So yeah, I was never going to start with some elaborate Warhammer mech that like I'm
dragon,
put to shame by these people online that spend hundreds of hours on these creations. I'm not an artist, so
I just tell you, like coming from like the custom pops, and I would see people do things, and I'd be like wow, that is so slick and so sharp, and like then I try to do it, and it's like what is what, like, how did they do that? And so like it's kind of fun in a way, also learning how to, how to solve that puzzle, because like how they did pretty good. Like, so there must be some way to get that. So I always appreciate that stuff.
Yeah. So let's go back and revisit some of your design efforts. Were there any like big swings that you took with the design that like didn't pan out in playtesting? Like, did you try like a 2v2 mode, or like a 1v1v1 mode, or did you try some mechanic that didn't work? Can you talk to us about some of the swings that you took, or some of the things that did not go according to plan?
Yeah, well, I think what making it really complex at the start was probably a bad thing at the time.
Yeah.
Because again, not coming from any of this, I never made a video. I never made a game before. I never like 3D printed before. I was all of a sudden doing these things. But so, excuse me. I think the big problem was like going really fast, and probably made more so that I did actually have a 4-player version of this.
Okay.
So 4-player checkers is kind of crazy, where especially with boards that were rectangular, because the Draughtnauts themselves are not square; they're a little more rectangular. So fitting them on a rectangular space made more sense. But so what I had to do was design a middle board. So you had what was called the megaboard, and it was like sort of another board that you had that their boards went on top of. So you basically you had your starting world, and then you had like the mega world that you went into, and then now 4 people are playing in that. And so like, again, it was sort of like trying to I was trying to make something happen out of nothing, really, or I was trying to fit too many things and too many ideas. And so the main game testing thing was like, wow, this is really like, so how many times can I move this way? What happens if that? And I'm like, oh wait, yeah, there's a lot you didn't think about with all of a sudden adding all that other things to it. So that was a really valuable part of the playtesting, learning to bring it down. Also, and this was primarily the logistics of the printing at the time, not having it be 8 pieces, obviously, but because they were 8 pieces, the legs were articulate. So they were just kind of plugged in to hold them there. I had no idea how to attach legs to something else I had made. So I plugged them together, which gave them a little like, jingle jangle, which is kind of funny because now the whole like fidget movement is like crazy. This probably would have been a great thing now, but back then everyone's like, why do they move? And it's like they would land nice, and like it was like something kind of tactile to it, but everyone was always like, why don't you just make them stationary? Like why are their legs moving? And it's just like, now they're stationary. Everything is one solid piece. So it's and which is actually very helpful for tiny hands or younger players. Of course, I must say that it's adult collectible just for legality purposes.
Sure.
I don't want anyone choking on tiny pieces.
Yeah,
but the having all that kind of come together to be a little more solid was a whole part of that game testing thing was incredibly valuable. Then also the input about the megaboard. But I mean, that it's still intriguing to me to have a multiplayer version of this, because 2 players, I mean, great, the game moves fast and it's very simple to go. But to open it up to be more of like a commander style thing, and bringing it more multiplayer is has always been there, but I think pulled back to get this rolling again.
Okay.
But it is a fun idea. I would love to bring that back somehow.
So John, you can just go ahead and cut the check now, because just turn it into a circular board with like Chinese checkers style. You got big enough spaces where they can fit the big chibis, move them around kind of like Chinese checkers. That's your next spin-off, huh?
There we go. I'm pretty sure those neoprene mats are easy to a circular mats are probably no problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
okay.
Cool.
So what is the avenue to grow this in the future? Like you're starting production, you've got a couple of sets printed, you're ready to start rocking and rolling. You survived COVID, and many designers did not. So congrats to you for pushing through.
Thank you.
How do you grow this in the future? I saw you did like kind of a Indiegogo Kickstarter type esque thing. what is the venue to get people to contribute to this game in the future? Not only to buy it, but like, how do you get that community together in one spot to have people start making that fan-made characters, those fan-made armors, those fan-made STLs? Like, where does that live?
Yeah, so right now I'm very kind of contained. So the shop is on Etsy, so all of the production is done through then is through there. Right now, there are a certain number of exclusive sets. There's 4 waves of bases that are available in unique prints. The 2-player set is obviously is per on demand. So if you wanted to, you can customize player 1 set, you customize player 2, you choose between 5 boards designs, and you get that. So the Etsy place is kind of the main hub for that. I've built out a newsletter as well. That's sort of rolling with news and updates. That is available as well. That all of this is done through my link tree. So if you go onto my Instagram, you can find the link in bio. There goes to everything. I have set up a Ko-Fi account, so that's something that I want to eventually start putting more effort into, because I feel like that's really a good place to get more of the community engagement. I have a few. I mean, again, it's just me, but like, the more I get, I'm bored. Discord is a huge opportunity. Again, for like the community aspect of maybe the voting class, or the people that vote on rules or whatnot, or canon, game canon. And then there's the story, which I'm been developing and writing for the last year, and is there. It's just finding that platform. So really, at the moment, it's follow on Instagram. Check out the follow on Etsy. Like the page, like the listings. Pick up a set if is the best way to help. Just because this is a totally independent venture. I have no gatekeepers. I've got nobody else that's I don't have an inventory to maintain. I don't have anybody. I don't have investors or anybody. It's really just sort of me on my spare time. But I'm this is again year 1, and a lot has happened with 1,000 followers in 1 year. I think that it's probably a modest little boost for a little New Jersey home studio, but the response has been absolutely fantastic from everybody. So I've no matter who has made comments, we've made a few sales, which has been fantastic, and I've met a couple people and put a sale, which has been fantastic. I'm hoping over the next 6 months to maybe go to a couple more conventions, maybe get some more playtesting around, and actually get more into that universe, because really it's the eyeballs, it's the ears, and as it grows, because the abilities are there. It's like, it's so crazy. Like I'm realizing just how many things I can do with the printers. So I'm like, and even just yesterday I finished a new champion that had multicolored designs that I've never done before. So I'm exploring new options. So like, there's definitely new things coming with design and with base style, but really the story, I'm like deep in the story. I'm loving that right now. The world building, it's a cool, rich story. So it's fun to, I can't wait to talk about it, but like, and offer it to more people to see, to get it out of the head. But so the newsletter is also a big, and just follow along, because I think over the next, at least year, the last year has been crazy. So next year, I can't imagine what we're about to see.
Can only go up from here. So, John, thank you so much for joining us here at Operation Game Night. I will put a link to all of your pages and socials and everything in the show notes for those that are watching and or listening. If you are joining us for the first time, thanks to John's appearance, go ahead and give us a like and a follow. Share the show if you enjoyed this interview. We are kind of a grassroots movement, just like John. So the more we can get eyeballs on this show, the better for us, the better for John. Draughtnauts is going to be the biggest game in the world. So go on his Etsy account and, buy a set, try it out, see if you like it, give him some love. John, thank you so much for coming on the show. We always say that we like supporting smaller designers. I've given just a handful of shout outs in the past to people that have taken big swings like this, to include simple things like print and play games. So I appreciate the small indie designer that's doing it, grassroots movement, and that is what you're doing with Draughtnauts. So John Lazaration, thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for sharing your design, and I hope to see more Draughtnauts in the future.
I hope to be present more. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you again. This is a blast.
One last shout out. Tell us all where you can find your stuff on the internet besides Etsy. Like, do you have like a Instagram handle or anything like that people should look for?
LazArt Studios, at LazArt Studios on Instagram. Also lazartstudios.com/home, just to be safe, because I'm not a webmaster, and I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure I got the link right. But lazartstudios.com/home. Instagram, my link in bio will get you to everything else. So I would greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, and we will share those links in the show notes. Thank you for joining us, John. Thank you for joining us, listeners and or watchers on YouTube. This has been Operation Game Night. I have been Travis. He has been John Lazaration from the Draughtnauts production, and we are out.